One of the things that many of our clients worry about is if they leave an inheritance to their son or daughter and they wind up going through a divorce, is their son-in-law or daughter-in-law going to end up with that inheritance? And unfortunately, the answer is, under most estate plans, yes, the inheritance would be at risk to that divorce. Now, you might be wondering, can't my son or daughter just keep that inheritance in a separate account? And unfortunately, that's not a guaranteed approach. You see, first, you're depending on your son or daughter to actually put it into a separate account. And that can be a lot of pressure for them. In a marriage, there's a lot of pressure to put the inheritance into a joint account. Now, even if your child holds firm and they do put it into a separate account, then a court might still scrutinize how they were spending that money along the way. So maybe they received the inheritance and they think, oh, it'd be a good idea to help pay down the mortgage on the property. Well, if that's a marital asset, maybe now they're starting to commingle the funds a little bit. Or maybe they use it to pay for childcare expenses or college expenses, or they get laid off and for a while they're starting to use those funds to pay for household expenses. So just keeping it in a separate account is not a surefire way to keep that inheritance protected. Now, the good news is a well-designed and implemented estate plan can leave an inheritance to your son or daughter, but also keep it protected from a future divorce. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, maybe I don't need to worry about that, my child's too young, or they're not married yet, or maybe you have adult children that are in long-term stable marriages, you still may want to consider having this protection as part of your planning. If your children are young or they're not married yet, you want to make sure that they already have this protection in case they get married after you pass away. And if you're thinking, oh, well, they could just get a prenuptial agreement, that's not a sure bet. In fact, I read a study recently that said only 14% of people said that they would definitely sign a prenuptial agreement if they were asked to. And it's putting a lot of pressure on your son or daughter to have to ask for that prenuptial agreement versus you just nipping the whole issue in the bud by taking care of it ahead of time. Now, if your children are already married and in long-term marriages and you think, oh, I don't think they're really likely to ever go through a divorce, you know, I read recently that even after 10 years of marriage, 1 in 3 marriages are still likely to end up in divorce. And I can tell you, with my years of experience, we've seen this play out time and time again. When a client passes away, if they have 2 or 3 children that are married, it's not uncommon about 1 to 2 years later, at least one of those children is in divorce. And I think one of the reasons that happens is the inheritance actually creates the financial means to make that possible. Maybe one of the spouses was a stay-at-home parent, or they were financially strained, and that inheritance opened up the financial space for them to feel like they could leave that unhappy marriage. So you definitely want to make sure that that inheritance is protected in case your child is in that situation. Now, as I mentioned, most estate plans don't protect the inheritance from a future divorce. So if you have an existing estate plan and you're not sure if you have this covered, we'd be happy to help you take a look at your plan and see whether you're protected or not. Or if you're just getting started on your planning, then make sure you put this on the list of topics to discuss with your attorney and give us a call and we'll help you figure out the right option for your family.